Okay. All right, I'd like to open the November meeting of the Leavenworth Board of Zoning Appeals. We do have a quorum with only one commissioner absent. First thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the 16 September 2019 meeting. Any comments, changes, or can I get a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. No old business, new business. Item number 1, 2019-11, BZA 114 North 18th Street. Hold a public hearing wherein the applicant is requesting a variance from the regulations to allow an accessory structure within the required side yard setbacks. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you said, this is a request for 114 North 18th Street to allow an accessory structure in the required side yard setback. As you can see, this is a corner property, and so on corner lots, both the front and the street side corner are considered front yards for setback purposes, and so that side yard is going to have a 25-foot setback requirement. The existing house that's on that lot has a 16-foot setback from the property line on Seneca Street. And the applicant is proposing to construct a detached garage behind the home that's in line with the house. So it would give the detached garage a 16-foot setback as well, as opposed to the required 25-foot setback. So this is the drawing that the applicant provided, just showing the location of the proposed detached garage. It would be in line with the existing driveway that comes in, and it would meet the required rear yard setback for the detached garage. And just to kind of show you the street view, this is the existing house with the driveway coming in, and so the garage would be sitting in this area, like I said, in line with the existing house. So the applicant is here, so either he or I can answer any questions you might have.
Any questions of staff or the applicant?
Would that be in line with the garage that's next door?
It would not be. We actually looked at that. All the houses, all the way down the street, they meet the 25-foot setback, and so it will be a little bit in front of the neighboring garage. And you can see, yeah, on his drawing,
Oh, I see
here's
it.
the corner of the garage, and
Yeah.
so it will be in front of that just a little bit.
Was it ever looked at as to whether or not it was feasible to go ahead and move that back so that it did line up, or what were the reasons for
Yep, I believe we
choosing
did
not
look
to
at
do
that.
that?
I believe there's some site grading issues. The applicant could speak a little bit more to that, but I know that that was looked at as an option.
Okay. Let's see. Any other comments or questions? If not, I'd like to open the public hearing, and I would like, if the applicant is present, to address that last question about any alternatives for readjusting that so that it lined up with the garage just to the east.
And I do want to add, just real quick before you speak, we distributed as part of the packet afterwards, Mr. Menard, the property owner, had gotten signatures from his neighbors, just in support, so you do have those as well.
Okay.
Good evening.
Sure.
As far as your question goes, it was more for, that way I would still have some backyard. If I moved it back 10 feet, I probably wouldn't have much backyard left. And I looked at it as more aesthetically pleasing to the eye to have it flush, plus the added cost of the concrete, moving it back 10 feet to concrete that whole driveway. So it was added cost and everything. So that's why I decided to pursue the variance instead of moving it back even with my neighbor's garage to meet the required setback.
Will it be standalone, or will there be any kind of a walkway, a breezeway, or an attachment so that it's part of the front of the house?
No, sir, it'll be completely detached.
It's detached. Okay. Any other questions?
So are there other concerns you would have besides the additional cost of the concrete and moving it back, other than, you would take your backyard, obviously?
I'd probably have to take out my deck and everything that, because that would put me in there when I do the dirt work and everything. It would require me to remove the deck, current deck. So a little bit more labor. So,
It does kind of drop off there to the east there.
yes, it does.
Okay. All right.
You talked about concrete work. Are you planning on putting a concrete driveway into that garage?
Correct, sir.
Okay. Other questions, comments? I know that each of these applicants have submitted drawings of what the garage will look like, but the BZA is only really to look at the location of it, and
Right.
and that the building codes and whoever issues the permit will make sure that the design or whatever meets
Meets those
with the other
requirements,
criteria.
yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay, are there any comments, either for or against, that anyone would like to make before I close the public hearing? It appears not, so close the public hearing, and then any discussion amongst the board members. If not, I can go ahead and go through the process. To authorize in specific cases a variance from the specific terms of the development regulations, which will not be contrary to public interest, and where owing to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the provisions of these development regulations will in an individual case result in unnecessary hardship, provided the spirit of the development regulations shall be observed, public safety and welfare secured, and substantial justice done. Let's see. There are, a request for variance may be granted upon the finding of the board that all of the following conditions have been met. The board shall make a determination on each condition, and the finding shall be entered in the record. First condition, that the variance requested arises from such condition in which is unique to the property in question and is not ordinarily found in the same zone or district and is not created by an action or actions of the property owner or the applicant. We will go down and each commissioner will either agree or disagree to that, and then when we total them up, that will determine if the variance is approved. So, Commissioner Kim, would you like to start?
Not really, but
Oh,
I have to. As much as I want to say agree to this one, I'm having difficulty finding the extenuating circumstances that would meet the requirements of this particular one, because other than financial, which is not a consideration that we can grant a variance upon. And so for that reason, as much as I think it makes sense aesthetically, we can't consider that as well. I'm going to have to say I disagree.
I'm going to agree.
okay.
I think since they already have the house already sticks into that part of the house, or part of the land that the garage moved there doesn't change the aesthetics of it, or, yeah, it's still a variance.
Okay. For a similar reason, I will agree. The house faces one street and meets the requirements. The north side doesn't line up with the other residences down the street because it faces the other side. And there is an attempt to not exceed the distance to the street on that side. So I think within the spirit, the owner is trying to at least make it appear that it was well thought out and a part of the original construction. And that was one of the questions I asked about, will there be some kind of a physical connection to the house? And that would have made it really easy. But I'll agree.
I agree.
Question number 2. That the granting of the permit for the variance will not adversely affect the rights of the adjacent property owners or residences. Commissioner Virginia?
I agree.
I agree, based on that we have these letters 100% in favor.
Agree.
Agree.
Third question, that the strict application of the provisions of the development regulations from which the variance is requested will constitute unnecessary hardship upon the property owner represented in the application. Commissioner Kim?
I'd have to disagree again.
Okay.
I agree.
And I agree.
I agree.
And question 4, that the variance desired will not adversely affect the public health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, or general welfare.
Agree.
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 And lastly, that granting of the variance desired will not be opposed to the general spirit and intent of the development regulations.
I disagree.
I agree.
I agree.
Agree.
Okay. Based on those, we have the majority in the agreement. In granting a variance, the board may impose such conditions, safeguards, and restrictions upon the premises benefited by the variance as may be necessary to reduce or minimize any potentially injurious effect of such variance upon other property in the neighborhood and to carry out the general purpose and intent of these development regulations. Is there anything that the board wishes to add as a criteria for approval, or shall we just grant the variance based on the variance as presented?
I don't have anything to add.
Neither do I.
Okay. So based on that, the board recommends approval of the request for a variance from section 403 of the development regulation to allow corner side setback of less than 25 feet for their attached garage.
Is it 404 or 403?
Does it say on the front?
I think it's 404. Not that
Oh.
Oh, I'm looking at a different, sorry.
For the next one.
My apologies, I got ahead.
Hey, you trying to trick me up?
No, I apologize. Can't speak English.
Okay, item 2, 2019-12, BZA 721 Miami Street. Requesting a variance from section 404 of the adopted regulations to allow the home occupation of a detached garage. Staff report, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you said, this is a request to allow a home occupation in a detached garage. The development regulations specifically state that a home occupation may not be conducted in a detached garage or shed, that it needs to be conducted within the principal residence. The applicants are proposing to conduct a small engine repair and tune-up business in their recently constructed detached garage behind their home. These would be things like lawnmowers, chainsaws, no automobile engines or anything like that. The applicants had contacted the city prior to constructing their garage this past July. They had spoken to a couple of other departments within the city. Unfortunately, they weren't directed to the planning department and were under the impression that the home occupation would be an allowed use within the detached garage. So they constructed the garage over this summer in July of 2019 under the good faith understanding that it was an allowed use within that garage. So they did get a permit in July of 2019. Then it came to our attention after it had already been constructed, that they were intending to, house their home occupation in that detached garage. So that is how we are at this point. It is on Miami Street, between Broadway and 7th Street. Along Broadway and along 7th Street are some more commercial, type businesses, that kind of flank the neighborhood that this is located in. And this is accessed off of an alleyway, that runs behind the property. So if you have any questions, I can answer those for you, and the applicants are here as well.
Any questions?
I do. So help me understand how this is related to a use variance, and would that be legal for us to have jurisdiction over, I guess?
Yeah, so it's not permitting a use that's not allowed. This would be allowed as a home occupation, this type of use. It's just the location of that use. And it's been a little while, but we have had some home occupation variances requested before. The one I remember is someone was requesting a variance to allow an outside entrance for their home occupation. The regulations say that you can't have an outside entrance. And they, I believe, had like a walkout basement or something, and so they requested a variance for that. So the use itself is allowed as a home occupation. It's just the location on the property that is the cause for the variance.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. Home occupation means that the owner of the home is the only one that can operate the business out of the garage?
Correct, there's no other employees.
Well, okay, that was part B.
Okay,
How many employees not a residence of the house would be allowed?
none.
None, okay. I noticed there's a fence around the property. Was that a requirement, or it just happened to be there?
If you wanna come up to the microphone.
The privacy fence was all the way around it. The only thing I did was connect it from the house over to my neighbor's to cut off so my dogs could not get to the back there.
Okay. It doesn't appear that there's any place for customer parking, especially with that fence
There is no parking. They're just gonna pull up and
Drop it
drop
off
off and
and-
pick up.
Okay. That, again, is that something that we need to consider as a part of this?
No,
Or will
not
that be
not
taken
as
care
part
of
this.
as
We're just looking at having it in the garage.
in the garage and operated by the homeowner?
Correct.
Okay, all right. All right.
And what is the thought process behind not having it located in an accessory structure as opposed to the main? I mean, it goes back to the original writing, I'm sure, but.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, and in researching this, I looked at a few other cities, and it seems like most cities have this requirement. So, I'll be honest, I'm not really sure what the thought process is. With this being an allowed home occupation, it would seem to make sense that it might be appropriate in a detached garage. Assuming the size of the garage is allowed on the property, which this is, that was reviewed as part of the building permit process. So, I'm not really sure 100% what that thought process is behind that. And that is actually something that I was planning to bring up every year. Our planning commission reviews the development regulations for needed changes and just discussion. And so I was gonna have that on our list for this next round to see if that's something that we might wanna look at.
So if this were an attached garage, he wouldn't be here, right?
Correct.
Are there different areas of business in consider, like some Longaberger or Avon, those are home businesses, or somebody that does things on a computer and spreadsheets and all of that. Is there a different category for, like, engine repair, automotive?
Nope, we don't have any categories of home
Anything like
occupations.
that.
We have a few that are specifically prohibited, automobile repair being one of them. There's some requirements that they can't create, noises or noxious fumes, that type of thing, but we don't categorize or rank types of home occupations. So
Okay.
someone selling Avon would be considered the same way as someone doing small engine repair because they're both allowed home occupations.
Well, you'd mentioned the engines, and I know chainsaws are pretty loud.
Yeah, and so that would be up for, the property owner to make sure that he's not creating that noise to disturb his neighbors and conducting his
Okay,
business.
so again, we're approving the use of the facility for a business, homeowner business.
Right,
The kind of business and everything will be
Right.
managed by the staff.
correct.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Well, while you're standing there, I'll open the public hearing, so if there's anyone who either likes to speak for or against, or sir, if you want to make any other comments, you're free to do that.
I just want to mention that this is not a full-time gig. This is like I do this kind of like a hobby. I've done it for a long time, and just to help out people around Leavenworth. We've heard that there's not many places around Leavenworth that do small engine repair.
I can confirm that.
And, I've done this for 23+ years. I'm from Independence, Missouri.
Yeah.
I had 2 full-fledged shops down there. And, so this is not a full-time gig. It's just part-time.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Anyone from the audience? If none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing.
Well,
And,
I'm sorry.
oh,
I did want to ask, if you'd have known that you couldn't conduct the business in this building, would you have built it?
No, sir. If I would have known that, I would have looked for a place to rent.
All right,
I mean, we put quite a bit of money in that, so,
It's a nice looking garage.
thank you.
thank you.
yeah, it is. Okay. All right, thank you very much, sir. And with that, I'll close the public hearing and discussion amongst the staff.
I don't think that alley is that much used at all.
It didn't appear to be.
And it's kind of difficult to get in and maneuver into there.
I don't think anybody goes in that alley that doesn't actually have to be in that alley.
The other thing is, I know that small engine repair is needed in town, at least a second or third business.
Agree. Okay. If no further discussion, then we can go through the process. Basically, well, that's 4.04 instead of 03. Board's authority, variances to authorize the specific case of variance from the specific terms of development regulations, which will not be contrary to public interest and where owing to special conditions, the literal enforcement of the provisions of the development regulations will, in an individual case, result in unnecessary hardship, provided the spirit of the development regulations shall be observed, public safety and welfare secured, and substantial justice done. Same process as below. We'll go through the 5 questions. Each of us will vote on those, and then, based on the vote totals, determine whether or not the action gets passed. So a request for a variance may be granted upon the finding of the board that all of the following conditions have been met. The board shall make a determination on each condition, and the finding shall be entered in the record. First one, that the variance request that arises from such condition which is unique to the property in question and is not ordinarily found in the same zone or district and is not created by an action or actions of the property owner or the applicant. Commissioner Gervasini, would you like to start this one?
I agree.
Okay. I'll agree.
I agree.
I agree, but I'd ask that this get added to your list of areas where consider amending.
Question number 2, that the granting of the permit for the variance will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners or residences. Commissioner Kim?
Agree.
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 Third, that the strict application of the provisions of the development regulations from which the variance is requested will constitute unnecessary hardship upon the property owner represented in the application.
Agree.
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 That the variance desired will not adversely affect the public health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, or general welfare.
Agree.
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 And that granting of the variance desired will not be opposed to the general spirit and intent of the development regulations.
Agree.
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 Agree. Majority for agree. In granting the variance, the board may impose such conditions, safeguards, and restrictions upon the premises benefited by the variance as may be necessary to reduce or minimize any potentially injurious effects of such variance upon other property in the neighborhood and to carry out the general purpose and intent of these development regulations. Are there any conditions or safeguards that anyone would like to add, or?
Since this is a alternate or supplemental income generating organization, would it be appropriate to ensure that any testing of any repaired equipment after whatever the noise ordinance is in town, disturbing neighbors, would it be appropriate to put that into the variance?
I don't know that we can really do that.
Could we
This-
state it that it must comply with all existing city
Yeah, I mean,
regulations?
you can say that, and
Yeah,
in
that, you know, they'll be
terms of-
subject to the same noise ordinance that all other, you know, residents are, so, I mean, you can.
But
Yeah.
I think that would take care of the neighborhood. You know,
Yeah, and you
if someone's testing a chainsaw at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, I think someone might be upset.
Right, you can certainly say that they, yeah, shall comply with the existing noise ordinance in effect in the city of Leavenworth.
Did that sound good, what she said?
It sounded perfect.
Propose we add that comment to the approval? Or are there any other?
I think it's understood that it's there, that they've got to meet the rest of the requirements of the ordinance, but, I mean,
If it's in there and they don't comply, do we have any recourse?
Does code enforcement then get involved?
Police get involved with the
Police.
noise ordinance.
So it's not like we could revoke their,
Right.
so I don't know that it
Oh, well,
adds
that's
anything.
true, it's kind of. Will you guys issue the permit for him to operate the business there?
We don't require business licenses, and so.
So it's done, with this, it's done.
Yes.
So
yeah,
we're
there would be
really
nothing
saying, just
to-
please be a good neighbor.
Yeah, there would be nothing to revoke or anything like that.
And take this under consideration, what Commissioner Kim said about when you're reviewing the regulations, that there may be something that you want to put in there to allow city staff to be able to enforce if there's an abuse.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, based on the votes and there being no restrictions or conditions, we don't have to vote again that says we approve
No.
this. Just
No,
state,
you
just
met- they
state the
met.
fact that
Yeah, you
the
met.
request is approved as presented. You guys kind of got me all nervous about procedures,
Why?
because
It's never bothered you before.
we'll go to the next one on the agenda. Number 3, 2019-13 BZA, 1116 North Broadway. Hold a public hearing wherein the applicant, Russell Hooper, is requesting a variance from 403 and 105 of the adopted regulations to allow the expansion of a non-conforming structure and increase the maximum allowable lot coverage. Staff report, please.
Okay, city planner Jackie Porter is gonna handle this.
Thank you. Yes, as the chairman mentioned, the regulations to expand the non-conforming structure and increase the maximum lot coverage. The property currently exceeds the maximum lot coverage, making it a legal non-conforming structure. The lot is located on Broadway, surrounded by general business to the north and to the east. And then on the south and to the west is residential. The general business requires a maximum of only 50%, and they're currently at 83.4%. The applicant is wanting to construct an additional portion to the building of 744 square foot to the east side of the building. And they also are proposing to remove the concrete slab to the back that is approximately 404 square feet to help decrease some of the coverage of the impervious surface. At the end of the day, it's increasing the impervious surface by 340 after doing all the math, and it's still giving the total coverage of 86.7% roughly of the lot of impervious surface. And then in addition, that I forgot to mention during in the packet, the rear yard setback is also going to be violated. As we mentioned earlier, it's 25 feet for the rear yard setback, and they are going to, with an addition, it's going to increase it by 13 feet.
If they were to do nothing, they are already grandfathered in and there's no issue, but since they are removing or adding to the impermeable surface, it now brings in all of the other faults that were grandfathered in from the original structure.
Correct.
And I will just note too that the impervious surface for commercial properties is another item that we have on our list to review as part of the development regulations update this year. Most cities do not have a specific limit for impervious surface allowed on commercial properties. It's more of a ratio and taking into account stormwater considerations. And a 50% impervious surface for commercial properties is, I actually couldn't find any other cities that had that requirement. We just have it across the board for all zoning districts, so residential, commercial, industrial. And so again, that is something that we're planning to take a look at and take a look at what might be a better way of considering commercial properties for this particular consideration.
Will stormwater look at this, or have they already looked at this?
They would be looking at this when it comes in for building permit, yeah.
Okay. So it's possible they may have to make some modifications.
Yeah, and it could be, and so that would, yeah, again, be looked at when it comes in for building permit, that when engineering would review it.
And so what would the new rear setback be? I missed that part.
It'll be 13 foot. It's currently at 37 where it is now, and then they're adding 24 on the new.
When were those stormwater, or when was the stormwater criteria approved by the city and started implemented? Was it in 2019, or has it been in effect for a while and updated?
Oh, the Public Works reviews, their
Well,
criteria,
I assume they review based on the ordinance that we're reviewing right now, or are those two separate processes?
those are two separate processes. Yeah, they have their own set of criteria that they review based on, best management practices and different engineering calculations, and that's not covered in our development regulations, that's their own.
Is theirs more restrictive or ours? The
Ours
planning
would
area?
be at this point with the 50% lot coverage for commercial properties.
Okay, so I'm assuming when you review this, you're gonna try to make sure that both departments are operating on the same criteria?
Yeah, and again, what most cities do is state that the lot coverage shall be subject to stormwater quality and quantity considerations, something like that for commercial properties, because it's really gonna vary. There's a lot of new materials that can be used now, pervious paving materials, different, again, best management practices that can be used. And so something like this is typically handled with an engineering type review and not just a across-the-board restriction on lot coverage.
Which brings up part two of the question. I assume even if we approve this, Public Works will still review it based on their considerations and could end up stopping the project?
Yep, when they come in for their building permit, engineering will review it, and if they see any, issues, they would work through that with the applicant at that time.
Okay. Well, I know this process costs money to file. And having Public Works, as far as I know, doesn't. It would have been nice for them to review it so that we would know that if we approved it, that the applicant could move forward, but he's still in limbo.
Yeah, and I don't think they have, a full set of construction drawings yet either, and so that also comes in consideration, preparing those types of drawings for engineering to review. So this is kind of the first step, to get to that point of submitting for building permit.
Okay. Well, I do have a question for the applicant, but I guess I'll wait for the public hearing to say, why does the addition have to be that big? Or why does there have to be one at all? Because he obviously is operating now, but anyway, if there's any other questions of the staff or the staff report, if not, I'll open the public hearing and then I'll address those.
I had a question. The proposal, how close would it be to the structure that's directly south of that property? There appears to me to be like a detached garage or something that's right on the alley. And then also that appears to be
Kennels.
really close to the property line.
Yeah,
Yeah, so general business district has a 0-foot side yard setback requirement, so on the south side, there's a 0-foot setback
it's
requirement.
right on there.
So it's intended to line up with the existing building, just extend it out, so that south side setback would be okay, and then building code does require a 5-foot separation between adjacent buildings, and so again, that'll be reviewed when they come in for building permit to make sure there is enough separation between the addition and that adjacent.
So there would still be a setback from the alley of how much?
That's gonna be about 13 feet
And
from the alley.
the structure just to the south of that is right on the alley?
Yep, that's, yep.
It's not set back at all.
There's no, okay.
And is currently zoned residential.
Okay.
Is that residential?
I'm sure at one point, before it was Broadway, that it was residential too.
Most likely.
Has the neighbor given any input?
Yeah, we haven't heard from the neighbor, but the applicant can let you know if he's talked to them.
Any other questions, comments before I open the public hearing? Okay, I'd like to open the public hearing then. If anyone would like to come up and either speak in favor of or against, please come to the podium. And if the applicant is here, I have a question for you. So if you wouldn't mind coming up.
How y'all doing?
Good evening. What is the purpose of the addition, and is the size generated strictly on that intended purpose, or that just seemed to be something that you have room to grow in?
We chose the length based off maximum. If I'm gonna build something, I might as well build as far as I can. And the purpose is we need warehouse space. Right now, everything is just, we don't have room for everything we're doing. So I need a refrigerated or climate-controlled warehouse space for all the ingredients and all of our products that we bring in. So right now, if I get a delivery on a pallet and it's snowing, we actually have to unpack it in the parking lot in the rain or snow and hand deliver it in and find a place for it. Whereas if we can build the add-on, there'll be a door there, the delivery can come right inside the door. It doesn't have to be emergency unpacked, and we can unpack it at our will whenever we need to. It's just, it's a simplicity thing and trying to solve several problems at one time.
Is there intent to use the alley as a delivery point?
Never. No, the alley actually is not in good enough shape to even, because our pallet is delivered to us with a push truck pallet.
Oh, yeah.
They have, right now, they park on the front of Broadway and they hand truck it to the back where we unpack it. They'll do the same thing, but actually pull it inside the room for us so we can unpack it at a different time or at our leisure instead of trying to fight the elements. The alley is in such bad shape that, because they talked about that when the delivery guys, I asked them if it would be easier to park somewhere else and pull it down, and they said they couldn't run wheels over that alley. So it's, yeah, so.
Okay.
Seems like there's a grade difference there too, if I remember right.
There is, and I brought Willard over here. Willard Wiley is designing it for me, and he builds homes, and he's fought with that grade mentally, and finally he has a solution for it. And it causes a water runoff, and so he thinks he has a solution for that. But this was kind of the first step. You know, I could hire somebody to come in and build architectural plans, but that's going to cost money. Or I could go here first and see if it's worth the time to hire an architectural planner. So I had to start somewhere. We also considered moving it to.
The second part of my question had to do with the variance for the setback off the alley, that if it was possible to get a little more than the 13 feet that would be left. But I know you're trying to maximize your storage and.
Can I speak a second, right quick?
Sure.
You say it. So this here was a kennel. And so that's concrete that we're going to eliminate. And so basically, we're going to clean up the alley from that concrete to the alley. We're going to clean up that and make that green space or whatever. But the fact that, and as far as the roof line goes, this roof line is going to would stay the same. So aesthetically, you would never tell it if it was an addition. It's basically just an addition, because this roof's all going to be the same. And his access to his shop would be in here, to his storage would be in here. And as far as the water runoff, right now this all slopes this way. So what our plan is that, of course, again, run the guttering and run everything this way again. Back here, we're basically going to just keep the yard the height that it is now, because we're going to build a concrete wall and keep the dirt level like it is on the backside. So we're trying to make it aesthetically look nice for the neighborhood and match up what he's trying to do. Because if you haven't been up there, he's crowded. And the business has not been open very long, and he's crowded. And he needs his storage for all of his things, all of his materials that are coming in to work through the kitchen. So, but again, what we're trying to do is basically make it aesthetically look like the building had just been hadn't been added on to it, just basically look the same. So those pictures that I drew are kind of what it was hot to say. I'm more why I don't know if it.
And based on the aerial photograph, the outbuilding that's up by the commercial it doesn't have the right setback. The property to the south doesn't have the right setback. It doesn't appear that any of those have that rear yard setback that is in the books, I guess you could say. So it's not like he's making it any worse.
I think for that fact, even the substation doesn't go by setbacks either, but utility companies probably have different rules, so they have their own rules, I'm sure.
And they might have been there first. Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay. Anyone else like to speak either in favor of or against? If not, I'll close the public hearing and move to discussion amongst the commissioners. Any concerns, comments? Let's vote. Okay. Since the majority of these, the beginning statements on the granting of the variance is the same, I'll waive reading that again, and we'll just go right into the questions. A request for a variance may be granted upon the finding of the board that all of the following conditions have been met. The board shall make a determination on each condition, and the findings shall be entered into the record. First one, that the variance requested arises from such condition which is unique to the property in question and is not ordinarily found in the same zone or district and is not created by an action or actions of the property owner or the applicant.
Before you get to voting, I will just say too, since they're actually requesting 3 variances for to increase non-conforming structure, to increase the impervious lots coverage, and the setback.
We have to do 3 votes?
You can do 3 votes, and that would
Take them individually, so some may
take them
pass, some may
individually.
not.
Yeah, so that's, I believe, what we've done in the past when they're requesting more than one variance.
Which one do you want to do first?
I would just start with, to allow an expansion of a non-conforming structure, which is, section 1.05.
Okay, 1.05. All right, I'll repeat the question. That the variance requested arises from such condition which is unique to the property in question and is not ordinarily found in the same zone or district and is not created by an action or actions of the property owner or the applicant. Who wants to go first?
So
Commissioner?
we're doing non-conforming structure increase, is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
Yes.
And which one of these are you looking at for amending in the ordinance? Which one of those
The
3?
impervious surface for
So the lot
commercial
coverage.
properties, yeah.
Can I ask for a clarification? I know that we talked about the percentage of the ground and it already exceeded it and it was just going to exceed it even more, but I don't think anyone was very specific in why it was non-conforming in the size of the current structure.
It's not so much, it's not the building, it's the impervious pavement is already non-conforming. So we're the impervious surface is already non-conforming, so they're increasing that non-conformity. And then they're
Since we
adding
separated
more-
these into the 3
yeah,
separate ones,
they had
I'm
to be
trying to,
separated out. They're intertwined, they're really intertwined, these first 2, the non-conforming,
so it's non-conforming
structure.
for another reason, not for the reason of,
no, it's
the
non-conforming
addition.
because of the impervious lot surface.
So it's not really a non-conforming structure as much as it's a non-conforming lot?
It's the way it's, anything built on the lot, whether it's the pavement or something that's built out of the ground is considered a structure
Oh, okay.
based on the definitions, yeah. So that is a little bit confusing the way it's worded, but.
They don't take into consideration the other properties nearby or the aggregate. I mean, like around that substation is all that vacant land which has to stay vacant. That doesn't matter as far as the calculation of any individual lot.
No.
the only thing that you could take into consideration is the rest of the neighborhood just as messed up?
No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Whose turn is it?
Okay.
Is it mine or?
If you would like to start, please.
Well, if we go by the strict letter of the code, then I would have to disagree, but because this is one of those considerations for an ordinance amendment, I'm going to agree.
I agree.
And I'll agree on, based on the fact that I think it is unique to the property.
No,
Okay. Second, that the granting of the permit for the variation will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners or residents.
I agree.
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 That the strict application of the provisions of the development regulations from which the variance is requested will constitute unnecessary hardship upon the property owner represented in the application.
Agree.
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 That the variance desired will not adversely affect the public health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, or general welfare.
Agree.
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 And lastly, that the granting of the variance desired will not be opposed to the general spirit and intent of the development regulations.
Agree.
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 Okay. That one would pass. So do we close that one out and then start the next one?
Yep, so now you can start the
Okay,
next.
based on the voting and the indication of approval, the board recommends granting the variance. Any safeguards or conditions or restrictions to be applied? None. So as requested. All right. Part 2 is the impervious. Okay.
Previously, this was a veterinarian's office.
Broadway veterinarian. He
Yeah.
retired. He was my vet.
So the parking, the designated parking lots, spaces are something that came with the property. Because I don't know if the current occupant and his business would require
It
half a
doesn't appear
dozen
that
or a
any
dozen.
exterior work had been done at all
Yeah.
on the property. Can you confirm that?
I don't believe so. There, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it is as
Yeah,
As it
was.
as it was acquired.
As it
it was
existed and
approved
was acquired.
before.
Yeah.
Except for the kennels are getting taken out.
Yeah. Okay,
So we're voting on percentage of
The lot coverage.
coverage.
to allow for an increase that still Public Works has to review and work out with the applicant upon the submission of the permit.
And they'll work out a price to add to the taxes.
Sure. Let's start with the voting. That the variance requested arises from such condition which is unique to the property in question and is not ordinarily found in the same zone or district and is not created by an action or actions of the property owner or the applicant.
I agree.
I agree because it already exceeds the limit, and so it really wouldn't make any difference whatever else he was doing. He inherited this, and so the condition existed that was also in non-compliance.
Agree.
I agree, and it is just a nominal increase, but something that I know that will be looked at further by
Right,
stormwater.
there will be a
and-
second look by Public Works, and they'll address what needs to be done. And in light of the desire to review the restrictive conditions that are currently in place. Question number 2, that the granting of the permit for the variance will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners or residences.
Agree.
Agree.
Agree. That the strict application of the provision of the development regulations from which the variance is requested will constitute an unnecessary hardship upon the property owner represented in the application.
Agree.
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 That the variance desired will not adversely affect the public health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, or general welfare.
Agree.
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 And lastly, that granting of the variance desired will not be opposed to the general spirit and intent of the development regulations.
Agreed.
Agree.
Great.
Agree.
Based on the voting, that one also passes. And are there any conditions, safeguards, or restrictions other than what we've noticed is, or noted in that Public Works basically will have the final review?
Yep.
And will approve whatever end conditions will be required of the
Correct.
applicant? And that doesn't need to be stated, it's a fact.
Right.
Okay. So
So-
anything else?
Just a question. So I know variances typically run with the land, but in the end, if stormwater has them do something that makes the impervious surface, well, no, they wouldn't get that far down. Yeah, never mind. I know that I'm thinking about that a little further, that's not possible.
Okay. What is the third one that you, the
For-
side yard setback?
Yep, the
Or
rear
the
yard
rear
setback.
Rear
Yep.
yard setback. And with the kennels there, it would be considered a structure and is already in non-compliance.
Well, those would have been, they're fenced, and so fencing can be on the property line. And so, and pavement has to be 2 feet from a property line. And so it looks like they're right up on there, so.
Yeah. But what I heard on the proposed landscaping, it will make that better than what
Right.
the existing conditions are.
Right.
Okay. So it's really a matter of us concurring with not a full compliance, but that partial.
Right.
Okay. Okay, ready to vote? That the variance requested arises from such conditions which is unique to the property in question and is not ordinarily found in the same zone or district and is not created by an action or actions of the property owner or the applicant. Commissioner?
Agree.
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 That the granting of the permit for the variance will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners or residences.
Agree.
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 That the strict application of the provisions of the development regulations from which the variance is requested will constitute unnecessary hardship upon the property owner represented in the application.
Agree.
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 That the variance desired will not adversely affect the public health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, or general welfare.
Agree.
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 And lastly, that granting of the variance desired will not be opposed to the general spirit and intent of the development regulations.
Agree.
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 And based on the voting, that one also is variance recommended. Any conditions, safeguards, or restrictions? Or anything else that anyone would like to add to the approval statement?
No.
Okay, then the approval for the variance requested is based on the actual request, no extenuating circumstances. Okay. Number 4, 2019-14, BZA, 1400 Sanders.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you said, this is a request for 1400 Sanders to allow a detached garage greater than 1,200 square feet. The property is just slightly over an acre, and the development regulations allow detached garages up to 1,200 square feet on properties over 1 acre. And the applicants are proposing to build a detached garage of 2,400 square feet. So the property is located here in the corner of 14th Street and Sanders Street. And as I said, it is just over an acre. And let me get zoomed out here a little bit. Gotta get out quite a ways. So the property owners, this is the property that the house is located on. Just to the north of their property is some right-of-way for Sherman Avenue that was never built. it's still dedicated right-of-way. There's no plans to build Sherman Avenue through there. It's just city-owned right-of-way. These same property owners also own these 2 lots directly to the north, and then is it this one in the middle you guys also have? Yeah. And then this one up here. So they have 3 more lots to the north totaling about 3.5 acres. So in total, the property owners own about 4.5 acres, all they're contiguous to one another. That wouldn't increase the size they could build their garage, but just noting that they do have about 4.5 acres there. So the garage that they are planning to build on their property, let me get down to their drawing, their site plan. So they would be proposing to have a driveway come in off of 14th Street with the detached garage directly behind their house, paved coming around their house out to Sanders Street. And again, any of that is going to have to be paved. So if you have any questions, I can answer those for you, and the owners are here as well.
I have a couple real quick. The driveway that you say needs to be paved, is there a minimum width on that, or just a single lane, or whatever will fit between the property line?
Yep,
and the
we don't
house
have a minimum width
and the side
requirement
setback?
really for driveways. Again, they have to be 2 feet, pavement has to be 2 feet from the
The edge.
neighboring property. And I measured that before and it's not there. There is actually more room between the house and the property line than what looks like.
I guess
It's
the
about
question
25
was,
feet,
is there
so-
enough room to even do that?
Yes, they've got 25 feet between their house and the side property line there, so they've got 23 feet with which they can work a driveway into.
Okay, because I didn't want to approve anything that requires a driveway, and then the driveway would be
Right.
out of compliance.
Yep, so that's, that, they've got plenty of room there. And then again, any driveway that they're adding is gonna have to be paved wherever it comes around.
So this, I'm sorry, are you done?
Yeah.
This garage would fit solely on the existing lot where the house is?
Yes. Yep, as you can see, it's a fairly deep
Yeah.
lot with, it's wooded on most sides of the property.
Significantly wooded.
Yes.
Yeah. Do each of those have its own, like, lot number or designation? It appears from the map that where the house is and the property that where he wants to put the garage, he could sell off all of the other and not have to worry about replatting or resurveying his property, right? So then what difference does it make if he owns the other property, or even if there's a?
Yeah, and that was just for
vacated
note
street.
that's theirs, and at some point, if they wanted, they could, get some right of way, apply to get
extend
some
or
right of way
whatever.
vacated and replat it all into one property.
Yeah, okay.
So this is about twice the size as the normal garage that's permitted?
Yes.
Do we know what the purpose of that is?
Yeah, he can comment more on that, but I believe the purpose is for his business, he has some construction equipment that he utilizes for his job that he needs to be able to park on his property and would just like to have that housed in a garage. I would guess for security purposes, and then as well as just, visually it's gonna look better to not have equipment sitting out in a backyard.
Would that garage be permitted on any of those other lots that he owns?
No, the maximum allowed anywhere in the city is 1,200 square feet.
Whether it's
Yeah,
residential
so
or
if you're
commercial?
if you're over an acre, you can go up to 1,200 square feet. Doesn't matter if you have 20 acres in town, you're still only allowed the 1,200 square feet.
And it doesn't matter if it's residential or commercial?
This is just for residential. We don't have accessory structure requirements for commercial zoned properties.
We had another variance before in town, Shrine Park Road.
Yep.
That
Got a
had,
guttered circle.
yeah, that was larger than the 1,200 square foot of garage.
Was that the horse barn?
No, the horse barn was on Lakeview Circle, but there was another one that was between
It was on the west side,
Yeah, it was on the,
behind a guy's
on
house.
Shrine Park Road.
We've had a number, and some have been approved, some have been disapproved. It's been kind of based on the individual circumstances of the location.
Can you tell me how this is different than the earlier one we voted on, where it was a home business in a garage that he had to get a special permit for?
He's not
and
conducting a
then-
business out of, they're not proposing to conduct a business out of this
Well, you
garage.
said he owned a business, and this is to store all
I-
of his equipment.
It's not, they're not conducting a business out of the garage, though. And I'm not sure that they own a business. He could speak to that, but,
Business right in the garage.
yeah, they're just,
But every day there'd be people in and out driving those. And probably, if it's like another piece of property that I know of, the employees will bring their personal vehicles there, park them, get out, get in the vehicle, get in the construction vehicles, drive them away. Then you have all those employees' vehicles now.
I'm not sure what that plan is. The property owner could speak to that.
Okay. And that is an accepted use in a residential area, to be able to do that?
You can put whatever you want in your garage, basically.
Not many people have 2,400 square foot garages. The last time we approved something larger than a normal one, it ended up being a commercial business at a later date. And that's why I'm a little concerned. Any other questions?
Just for the applicant.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and open the public hearing, and if the applicant would come up to the podium. And we have a couple of questions for you.
All right, I'm ready.
Commissioner Kim, do you want to start?
Sure, can you walk us through how you plan to use the structure and kind of your justification for as large as it is?
I mean, I don't really have a business, but I have 3 trailers, mowers, pickup, work car, you know, that I plan on parking in it. I actually took everything and parked it, because I've got it all flat now. It don't really look like that anymore, but I parked everything within, you know, the 40 by 60, and I mean, that's with no workbench, no toolboxes, no nothing. So there's not gonna be like employees running in and out of nothing.
And why do you have so many trailers? I mean, help
Well,
me.
I've got mowers, couple mowers.
You have a mowing business?
We do a little bit of mowing.
So you and your family members?
Yeah.
Or you have employees that you
Just
bring on in the
my
seasons, different
son-in-law.
seasons?
No, it's just me and my son-in-law. Yep. But, I mean, it's kind of a unique area. We get, it says no outlet at the end of the road, and we get a lot of riffraff up through there. And, I mean, we've cleaned it all up, and we try to keep the roadways clear and clean. There's people dumping all the time. We just had somebody walk through our front yard up to our neighbors, go in our neighbor's back gate, help themselves to whatever. You know, our house has been broke into. They stole my car out of the garage, which, but our car's outside. You can't leave nothing sitting outside. You know, we've got cameras and everything just to try to protect what we can, but
Can you go over again why you need 2,400 square feet? That's like 10-car garage,
well, like I said, I've got,
couple of trailers.
yeah.
And some mowing
Enclosed trailer and truck, I mean, that takes up a third of it, just a truck and trailer. I've got another 14-foot trailer, and I've got a small trailer and golf cart and work car.
Is there a sketch of the proposed building? Oh, there. Yeah. gonna say, with it being the size that it is, and if you keep the pitch like this, it's gonna be
Yeah, it's all,
3 stories tall.
It's like this.
Well, yeah, well,
Or you're saying, or the height?
consider, yeah, the height,
Yeah,
because as you add the bays, that ridge line's gonna go up. It could go up, depending on how you orient it, but it'll be tall. It'll be
yeah, it'll have 10 or 12 foot
as tall as
walls.
your house, maybe even larger, and based on the footprint, it'll be a whole lot bigger than your house.
Yeah, I've got a fairly small house and just storage and being able to,
Yeah, and you got a lower level and all that. This will all be flat,
yeah.
but it'll be big.
This to me reads as a commercial use in a residential district. And I just am having a hard time getting my mind around 2,400 square feet for a garage in your backyard.
Yeah,
Where are they all now? 'Cause I drove around there. I didn't see anything.
yeah, they're all sitting out.
They're all
The
in the
enclosed-
backyard there?
The enclosed sits where the pad is, there's a pad there, it's all flat and cleared off now. Well, you can see kind of the enclosed and the other trailers sitting there together. But where the
Oh,
trees over
okay.
there,
I think we couldn't see it from the road, I think.
No.
yeah. I left all the brush there on the side just to block, you know, I mean, there's just, we've had homeless people living up in there, camping out, and, I mean, nothing's really safe, so. And, I mean, it's not gonna be commercial at any time. That's why I bought all the property behind me, just so nobody, you know, could move in, and really, that property behind me can't be, there ain't a whole lot to do with it. It's bottom ground, there's a creek that runs up through it, so it's kind of just low land.
Julie, how many accessory structures can he have?
2.
2.
And there's no size limit? It's just the number of structures?
right.
Nothing in the regulations about the size?
Right.
So he could have two
Two.
1,200 square foot.
1,200 square foot garages right next to each other.
And he would need a variance.
No. And he could pave a 2,400 square foot parking pad in the backyard
And still meet the
and,
permeability?
right, and then, you know, he'd still face the security issues with that.
It's an unusual request.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, I mean, I think we live kind of in an unusual area. I mean, we've got good neighbors and everything, but I don't know why we pick up trash along the road, and you wouldn't believe some of the stuff we pick up, that people just use it for,
Yeah.
so, I mean, we spend twice a year just weed eating down through there and trash bag, you know, picking up stuff, and I call the city and they pick up too, and it's a lot of action going on for a no outlet street, it seems like, but.
Julie, what safeguards are in place that if we approve this, that some of these concerns about a commercial business, right, future business, and whether it's a home business or a mowing business that kicks off and all of a sudden you've got employees, what is there in the system that his application would be occasionally reviewed to see if he was in compliance?
We would just enforce on a basis if our code enforcement officers saw something occurring there, or if we had something reported to us by the neighbors. So
So
you
no
know,
formal process other than an occasional
right,
review
right.
or a whistleblower?
Right, and so again, there's this, what he's got isn't really considered a home occupation that we conducted
Right,
out
at
of
this
this,
time.
so, yeah.
At this time, but a structure that big leans one.
Yeah, I mean, if
But
he
ever
opened
sold,
a
the
car
guy would say,
repair shop
"Whoa,"
in
you know.
it, then that's something that, I'm guessing we would hear about.
The visual footprint of something this large, I think, I also have an issue with. I mean, I understand that two 1,200 square foot, garages equal this, but I think even two smaller structure would not have the visual impact as one very large structure like this in the neighborhood. And that's kind of where my thinking is. And he would not need a variance for that.
Well, as far as visual for the neighborhood, it almost seems to me like two structures built close to each other would look worse than a
Than a
nice big
single.
building.
Yeah,
I mean, 40 by 60 sounds big, but
It
I've got
is.
a couple of friends that have buildings that are much bigger than that don't seem that big when it's put in an area with that much open space and confined.
And he's got plenty of space, I understand that, but then I have to go back to the ordinance, and this clearly, I think, goes against the spirit of the ordinance, allowing twice the size of a building than what anybody else could have.
But for me, the alternative of forcing him to build two structures, which is additional cost, which I think would look worse, or concrete fenced in so he could secure his personal property, this is the lesser of those evils, it seems to me.
But aesthetics is not really something I think that we can consider in terms of an ordinance requirement of a variance.
the aesthetics though, when you drive down 14th Street and look for this property, even before you get
Yeah,
maybe 100 or 30 yards from the corner,
you can't see it,
you can't see anything
I know, today.
today. Well, and the leaves are gone and it's drying off. But in the springtime and all during the summertime, I imagine the foliage would cover it completely.
Julia, is there any requirements for distance? I know the setback and side yard and all of that, but distances from the house, or can it be anywhere
It just has to be 5 feet from.
inside those three areas in the back and attached to the house if he wanted it to, but probably not preferred.
Right, no, detached, a building, it has to be 5 feet from the primary structure.
So 5 feet and then 15 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet.
Yeah, because it's an accessory structure, so it only needs to be 3 foot from,
three.
the
Side-
rear
Side
or
yard.
the side. Since he's a corner, it still has to be 25 feet from the 14th Street side,
Pushing it back, okay.
which he's, yeah, I mean, he's kind of, lining it up behind his house, so
Yeah.
he's got plenty of room there to work with.
On the map picture, can we tell, how far back would it be from the house?
Oh, I think it's about 120 feet probably.
So would it be back past the tree line, back in there?
Well, I wish this was more updated. It would say it starts about right here.
Your structure would start there and go
Yeah.
back?
Yeah. It's all clear.
Do you remember how big the horse barn was? It was,
Well,
I don't, I apologize.
it's not the horse barn I'm talking about, it's the one on,
no, I'm just curious how big that was.
4-car garage,
yeah,
4 bay.
It's bigger than this.
yeah. And that doesn't have any foliage
You know, that's
any place near it.
The one out off 20th,
The one on
off Lakeview.
Lakeview Circle,
oh,
that first block in off
Oh,
Lakeview Circle.
yeah, yeah,
It sits out
yeah.
in the field
Yeah.
to the south of where Lakeview
I don't
splits and
recall,
goes around.
I don't recall how big that one was.
But I think the one on Shrine Park, that backs up on Shrine Park, there's a lake, and then you go across the
it-
lake and it sits up a little bit on a hill,
Tucked behind the
Yeah.
house and
and that's,
a little bit of a,
that was even larger than this one.
And those were both granted. Those were
Yes,
granted.
yeah.
We'd like to just make it look clean, you know, just have everything in the building and not have, you know, a trailer sitting here, you know, here, there, everywhere, vehicles parked and.
I think stuck up in there, it's gonna look a lot smaller than
Yeah.
you think.
I think so.
Yeah, I wish the aerial was updated, cause it,
And the horse barn had a cupola on it, on top of it, so.
That's a good looking building though.
I can get some horses.
Did you say that you were going to have a workshop in there as well?
Yeah, just toolbox and,
Okay. Not like an office and a bedroom or living quarters, bathroom, utilities like just plain Jane garage, workshop?
yeah.
Because we also saw one where it ended up being an apartment in the upstairs. Okay. Well, any other comments, questions, concerns, clarifications? Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else want to either speak in favor of or against? Sir?
I live at 1401 Sanders.
If you would come up to the guy in the back recording it needs you
Yes, sir.
up by the microphone.
I live at 1401 Sanders, Michael Turner. And I've owned that property for about 20 years, and Tammy came in a little bit after that. All they've done is increase the value of that property, the upkeep of the house, the backyard. My wife and I discussed it. We've got no problem with what they're projecting to do, and I agree, that area is, I know that he's lost lots of material. I know he's lost landscape. But I don't think any of the neighbors in the area have any problem. I think that we're all pretty much behind him in building this, and I understand why he wants to build it. And I'm not worried about the aesthetics, because they've done a real good job of taking care of the area and keeping that in mind when doing their projects. So we would be for it.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay. All right, with that, we'll close the public hearing and open it up to the commission members for discussion. No further discussion?
No,
I guess we'll go ahead and bring it up for a vote. Same conditions for variances as expressed earlier. So we'll go through the criteria. A request for a variance may be granted upon the finding of the board that all the following conditions have been met. The board shall make a determination on each condition, and the finding shall be entered into the record. Number one, that the variance requested arises from such condition which is unique to the property in question and is not ordinarily found in the same zone or district and is not created by an action or actions of the property owner or the applicant. Commissioner Gervasini, Commissioner Kim took the other hard one.
I agree.
Actually, on this one, I disagree. I know it's a unique piece of property, but it is totally residential, and even though this garage is not a business, it is considerably larger than any garage I've ever seen in a residential area. So I disagree.
I will agree.
I also disagree, mainly because the last portion of that condition that is not created by actions of the property owner or the applicant, where that is a perfectly suited piece of land for that garage, I agree. But having it twice the size of what's allowed in the ordinance, it cannot meet that requirement right there, unfortunately for me. So I disagree.
Question from the staff. If he were to reduce it to 1,200 square feet, would he even need to come before us? Okay, so this does not kill a garage. This just is reviewing whether or not a 2,400 square foot garage
Right.
would be acceptable.
Or he could build two 2012.
So, at different times. Because
Or even at the same time,
Or at the
yeah.
same time, because he can have up to two applicants. So this isn't a showstopper, but it is a concern.
Right.
Okay. Number two, that the granting of the permit for the variance will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners or residents.
Agree.
Agree.
And I'll agree.
I'll agree.
I'm curious if it's necessary to go through all of the requirements since it can't pass since.
There's a tie vote.
With the tie vote on the first.
You did have me go through all of these the last time, even though
I just wonder why we do that if we have to.
If we know that we're
deny it.
stopped.
It's going to be denied after the first question is asked, is not answered in the affirmative.
or could we table it in case the applicant wanted to resubmit?
Or if he wanted to table it until we had a full voting,
Yes, that
full
would
five
be another,
members, and
because I would hate to,
yeah, it's hard when we have an even number of commissioners and a tie vote. Yeah, you're correct, it has to be in the affirmative, and so a tie vote is not in the affirmative. So we could hold it off until,
We
we
can
do
get a
have
full-
we do have an item for BZA next month for December. So we could table it until that meeting and try to get a full vote. I'm not sure what the outcome would be, obviously,
yeah,
but
exactly. I'm not opposed, but would it be inappropriate to ask the applicant if he would oppose to us tabling this and just scheduling it for the next monthly meeting? Or would that not be?
You
according
run
to-
the risk,
according to
again, of
procedure?
only having four, though. I mean, we don't know.
right,
That's right, yeah, it's a risk.
yeah.
It's a risk.
So yeah, you can certainly ask
It's
the applicant.
100% certainty that he fails if he chooses not to do that.
Right.
Without a permit to do it, he's authorized two more 1,200-foot structures, correct? Do they have to be side by side, or could they be in two?
Nope,
As
you
long
can
as they're
just build
detached,
two
right?
accessory structures.
Two
Up
detached
to a
accessory
maximum
structures.
of, each one can be 120 square feet. Or
1,200
1,200 square,
foot.
yeah.
So they could be back to back and,
They would need to be 5 feet apart.
Okay.
Building code requires buildings to be 5 feet apart, but
So the ultimate goal could be attained, just not with a single structure. From this, based on what we know right
Right.
now.
yep, so you can ask the applicant if they'd like to wait till December, see if we have a full board.
Anyone opposed?
I'm not opposed to that if he'd like that.
Or we could just make a motion to table the issue, period.
Well, I think we're required to hear the item within a certain time frame. Once they make application, we can't table it indefinitely, I don't believe.
I believe it's 90 days. Yeah, so the next meeting is December 16th.
Would everybody be? I will.
I'll be here.
I should be.
I should be.
Okay, we'll have to check with Commissioner Hovarth. But would you guys want to do that? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we can, you can make a motion to table it to the December meeting.
Or to table it for no more than 90 days, but at the earliest convenience? What language would
We
you
could, I
like?
would say table it to the December meeting, and, if we need to at that point, if we know
We
that we're
could
not
still
gonna
then
have
renew
a
it,
full
'cause
board,
we'd
then
still
we
be
could
within the-
table it again at that meeting to January, if we needed to.
So I would make a motion, we would vote on it, and then based on that vote, we would either continue or proceed with the next item on the agenda. Anyone opposed? Okay.
Okay, so we'll table it to the December 16th meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay, that is the last item we have on this agenda, and again, we'll have a meeting in December on the 16th, so, hopefully we have a full 5-member board at that meeting.
6, right?
Are we 6 right now?
6 o'clock.
6
Oh, it's at
o'clock.
6 o'clock, okay. I was gonna say, I think we only have 5, yeah.
Did she say 5? I didn't put that in my nomination.
6 o'clock,
Why, is there a Christmas party after?
I guess we could have one.
I'll bring the veggie tray.
Pass.
So is that the
All right, so do we have we're all done?
Yes,
So I need a motion to close the meeting? Do I have it? Moved and second, all in agreement, say aye. Aye. Motion carries, the meeting is adjourned.
okay.